Bro, let me tell you something. There are few groups of people in all across the world who are so capable yet so ignorant like the African. Bro, Africans used to be able to do great things, brother. Let me tell you something. Despite what some race realists might tell you, I don't know if you guys know about race realists. These are mostly white folks who tend to go around claiming that Africans are baboons, or Africans have an IQ of 65 and a baboon has an IQ of 85. Africa has this, but bro, Africans have been capable for a very long time to not only match what the Europeans and Asians and everyone else has been able to do, but in some cases they've also just been able to outdo everyone, right? I mean, look at all these African kingdoms. There's this kingdom of Kush, and I don't know if you guys know this. The kingdom of Kush, they actually built more pyramids than Egypt, which is crazy. Because when you think of pyramids, we think of Egypt. But Kush made more pyramids than Egypt. And as a matter of fact, Egypt is actually an African country. Never get that wrong, okay? Some people might say, oh, Egypt is part of North Africa. Oh, North Africa is not the same as Sub-Saharan Africa. Now, Egypt is part of Africa, and that's just how it is, bro. You can't take Egypt out of Africa. There was Africans building all these things in Egypt way before any other group came by, right? There was Coptics, and there was Kushites, from the kingdom of Kush. And looking back at some of the pharaohs of Egypt, some of them were actually black. Now, I'm not trying to... I don't care if they're black or anything. I mean, the only reason why I'm bringing this up is just to show the capability, because most people tend to doubt that, right? They tend to doubt that Africans could do this or can achieve great things, but actually we can't. But over the past 500 years, bro, I don't know what kind of demon. There's a certain demon that came into Africa, all across Africa, and just doomed all Africans to ignorance. Not all of them, but a large percentage of Africans to ignorance. And yeah. And so right now, most Africans are extremely, extremely ignorant, bro. And I'm not saying this because I'm not proud of being African. I'm very proud of being African. I love all my African people. But we are very ignorant, right? Especially Kenyans. Okay, not especially Kenyans. I don't know if Kenyans are more ignorant than other groups, but I'll say for sure, Kenyans are very ignorant. We'd rather blame anything else for our own wrongdoing rather than fix the problems we have. I'll give you an example. I don't know if you guys remember Salga. I don't know if you guys know Salga. Good thing I have a computer here, so we can go ahead and look up Salga. Now, Salga is a region in Nakuru County, right? That Nakuru County or Sangishu County area and Kericho County. And there was this road called Salga. It was a black spot. Every now and then, trailers will overturn. Sometimes there'd be passenger cars would, get into accidents, and lots of people would die. Because this is one of the main roads that leads from Eldoret to Nakuru and subsequently to Nairobi. I want to see Salga. It's somewhere here. Yeah. Across the A104. So you get past by Timbaroa and a little bit past Salga. It's somewhere here. Let me pull up a Google satellite view. So this area was very mountainous, and the terrain of the road was very, the road was very steep. So going down, most vehicles didn't have, most vehicles have a hard time braking, right? And I'll explain to you what the problem was, and why many people are dying, okay? Now, since this place was the road was very steep, whoever designed that road was probably not the best engineer ever, okay? So, whenever trucks would go down the road, remember, trucks are big and heavy. For those who are American, by trucks I mean semi trucks, so transit. We call them in Kenya transit. So these transit cars or these trucks, whenever they were going downhill, Most of them would use the regular braking, right? The brake pads and those ones are found in the wheels, right? And they tend to work. The brakes on the wheels, they tend to work, but they can also overheat. Okay, so whenever you use them, you have to use them sparingly. And like so, whenever you're going somewhere like Salga, where there's a long period of going downhill. Uh, they usually recommend that you don't use too much regular braking. Instead, you're supposed to use engine braking, which uses it works with the transmission. I don't know. I'm not willing to explain all that. But what used to happen in Salga is that all these trucks going downhill would use up the regular braking, and these braking systems would overheat. And whenever the brake pads would overheat, the brakes would fail, and this would mean that the truck was going downhill full speed with no brakes. So that way, there was usually a lot of speeding. Now, again, remember this was a road that goes downhill, and it winds a little bit. And another thing that caused a lot of accidents in Salga used to be carelessness, right? Human error. Because I already told you guys, Kenyans are very ignorant. We drive like we. You should see Kenyan roads, bro. People drive, especially matatu drivers. They drive like there's no tomorrow, right? And so there's a lot of accidents because people were trying to overtake going uphill, right? And they were just trying to get there as fast as they can. They didn't care about human life, or they didn't care about themselves even. They just want to make more money. And this usually led to, a lot of head-on accidents and whatnot. Now, did the Kenyans acknowledge this? Did the Kenyans actually go down and sit down and be like, hey, let's address this. We have this problem with this road. Should we change a few things here and there and maybe do some driver education, maybe hire more cops to, monitor the area? No, brother, they didn't do that. I'll tell you what the Kenyans did for a very long time, right? From ever since Ed 104 was built until very recently, about 5 years ago, bro. There used to be various conspiracy theories that in that Salga road there used to be demons, right? That there was a graveyard somewhere in Salga, and that these demons in the middle of the night would be the ones that come out and stand in the middle of the road, and that that would make the driver lose control. Some very weird stuff, right? Like it's. I used to listen to those stories, and I used to be like, bro, what the hell, bro? What the heck? Right? Like it's so dumb. Like the road was so poorly maintained. Whenever there was signposts, right? And that's one of the things I covered in my video. If you guys haven't watched my previous video, I went and analyzed factors that might have caused Kiptum to cause an accident. And one of the things I pointed out was that the roads were not clearly marked, and there was no signage. There's no signs that say, hey, there's a sharp curve coming ahead, right? And one of the reasons why I'll explain to you why there's not enough signage, because Africans and Kenyans in particular in this case, whenever they put up a sign, they go ahead and pull it out, right? And they go ahead and sell it as scrap metal. Whenever they put like a guardrail, guardrails on that prevent vehicles from going off the road and into like ditches. The very things that save African lives, they go ahead and pull that out too, and they go ahead and make scrap metal out of it. And then when an accident happens, they're like, "What? How comes? This is not possible, bro!" Like they act so surprised for causing an accident. It's something so predictable, and this is one of the reasons I'm not even surprised how now I start to see, the older I've gotten and the more I've learned about Kenyans and Africans, the more I realize why and how easily the colonialists were able to take over Africa. It was simply because we were just too ignorant, bro. It's not that we were not intelligent. They had nothing better than us, bro. They had nothing. We have the same IQ, same potential. For intelligence, we're just as strong, just as fast. But the thing that gave them a little edge against Africans was that Europeans were just less ignorant, right? They, they were more educated, not more intelligent, just more educated, and they had a better system of government. Okay, and yeah, so that's part of the reasons why I think. So yeah, I mean, in this episode, I'm just covering up, African ignorance. And there's another thing. Yesterday I was watching on TikTok, right? This is another classic case of blaming superstition, blaming practical things on superstition, right? I was watching this TikTok the other day. I think I saved it somewhere on TikTok. And apparently, in Pipeline, Kenya, Pipeline is an estate in Kenya. It's a very densely populated area in Nairobi, and there's usually a lot of construction of high-rise apartments, and apparently there's been a high rate of young children and young kids going up the high-rise apartments that are under construction and accidentally falling from the top and dying. And you would think that the Kenyans or the people living in that area would address this issue by either comforting the owners of these apartments or maybe even educating the children. But do you know what these guys did, bro? Apparently now they've invented a new demon, right? And now apparently there's a genie. For those who don't know, a genie, it's a jinn. It comes from Arabic for jinn, which is kind of like a demon. Apparently, Kenyans have instead made up a story about an urban legend about a jinn that apparently comes in form of a woman and approaches the children. And apparently, if it sees children, it suddenly turns into a child, and it grabs the hands of a child and takes it up the stairs and then throws the child, which is absolutely bullshit. Because you know what? We don't want to be held accountable. We make up all these stories because we're ignorant and we don't like accountability, bro. Africans don't like accountability. They'd rather blame it on a demon that doesn't exist rather than being accountable for their own children, right? And this is, I don't know, bro. I don't know why. I've never really understood. I really hope someday we can go back to being great. Because currently, man, despite all the technological advances, bro, I think Africans are still at the peak ignorance. We're at peak ignorance right now. It's really, I saw that thing and I was very devastated, bro. First of all, if your children is somewhere up there in a high-rise apartment, apparently guided by a demon, where are you? Where were you as a parent? That says a lot about you. Because clearly there's no demon. It's just you not taking care of your child. And suddenly when your child climbs up there and accidentally falls, you suddenly start to bring up stories of demons and whatnot. Bro, you're just ignorant and you're just a horrible parent. And acknowledge that. And, yeah. That thing made me mad. And, it's sad because children are dying. But then again, it makes me angry because parents, they should be taking care of their own children instead blaming it on. I don't know, brother. I don't know. But that thing stresses me a lot, bro. Like whenever, even this thing about Kiptum. People are making up stories about I think Eliud killed Kiptum. How did Eliud kill Kiptum, bro? Eliud and Kiptum were not the first two athletes to have a rivalry, right? Messi and Ronaldo, they have had the greatest rivalries for a long time. And before them, though, what about the F1? What's the name of the F1? F1 guys. Bro, there's rivalries in sports. And there's been rivalries. Even in Kenya, there's been rivalries in athletics for a long time. But people die. It's not just because you died because you're... death doesn't care. Basically, my point is death doesn't care. But you could be even if you had $100 billion in your account, but you could just die. When your time has come, at the end of the day, you're just a human being. You're a living being. One characteristic of living beings is death. As a living thing, the thing that defines us as living is the fact that we are not dead. Now, you can only be in two states. You can either be living or non-living. And currently you're living, but at some point you're gonna be dead, right? So despite, I mean, it doesn't matter that Kelvin. I mean, I'm not being how do you say it? It's not like I'm not. It's not that I'm not empathetic, right? I was very devastated by the death of Kelvin, but again, I can't just start to claim that he was killed by Eliud or like killed by some deep state. First of all, this guy was not even a politician, and there's strong evidence that the death was just natural. I mean, people keep saying like, oh, at the scene of the accident there was no, and that's another thing. That's another superstitious thing people started bringing about. They're saying, oh, at the scene of the accident there was no blood. Brother, who told you a human being is like people tend to think like human beings are like a balloon filled with blood, that if you just crash into something, you're gonna burst and blood is just gonna come out of everywhere. That's not how our human body is built, right? I mean, the only situations that a lot of blood tends to come out is when you're stabbed at an artery. I mean, if you're stabbed at the neck, there's going to be a lot of blood coming out, because first of all, your heart is still pumping. I mean, the human circulatory system is a closed loop. So whenever you bust something, blood is going to come out as long as you're alive. But if you get struck in the head, and your brain controls pretty much everything, right? Your heart rate controls your heart, your muscles, and your whatnot. So if you get struck in the head, and your heart stops, it doesn't matter if someone stabs you. You're not a lot of blood is gonna come out, because there's not that heart pumping anymore. You know what I mean? So even if there's cuts and superficial cuts, there's not gonna be blood. But of course, Africans were starting to say that, there was some demons who were sucking the blood of the accident victims, which was just a lot of bullshit. And I hate to use that kind of language, but I'm just calling you out for those ignorant people out there who keep making up foolish fallacies so that you can justify your own shortcomings. Bro, we need to be accountable, even when we're voting and doing whatnot. I mean, let's not be stupid, okay? Let's not be dumb. Thank you very much. Man, I just needed to rant, bro. I needed that ranting. And thank you very much to everybody who liked my previous video. I see I have 2 likes. 2 people liked my video. Thank you to Retiron Beer and to everyone who's Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.